I'm Lawrence Wilkinson. I'm the chair of the Global Lives Project, or the co-chair, and it's my honor to welcome to the stage 8 of the many people you saw credited just now with the production of the 10 films, each of which runs 24 straight hours in the lives of the folks you saw covered. So what you've gotten here is a quick taste of what's going to be on display for the entire run of the festival in the, I guess it's called the Furman Auditorium, just off the lobby of the Walter Reed Theater right across the street. So we hope you enjoy this, and we certainly hope you'll take the opportunity to walk across the street and immerse yourself in these films in the way they were meant to be experienced. If I may, let me ask my 8 colleagues to join me up here on the stage. As they're settling themselves, let me say just a few words of thanks. Thanks to Matt and to the folks at the New York Film Festival for having us, and thanks to our major sponsors, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Adobe Foundation, Google, in particular John Webb and Rebecca Gilbert, who've been extraordinarily helpful in not just in staging this showing across the street, but also a long exhibit at Google's headquarters. Orrick, Harrington and Sutcliffe, the law firm, Sub, Bose, the John L. and Lillian Hartzman Foundation, and over 500 individual contributors who've made all this possible. As I say, it's an unusual thing, Global Lives, 10 films, 24 hours each, days in the lives of a remarkable range of folks from all over the world. Let me turn first to David, from whom you heard at the outset, and just ask how it is that this came to be.
Thanks so much, Lawrence. So when I was in college a while ago, in 2001 and 2002, I had the great fortune to travel around the world for 2 semesters, and I went to Tanzania, India, the Philippines, Mexico, and the UK. And I lived with families in all those places. I lived in a bamboo house in the Philippines. I lived in a former squatter settlement in Mexico City. I lived in a mansion with 5 servants in New Delhi. And the experience of that was something that changed me forever. And I couldn't do the basic things that a person growing up in California did after that. I couldn't read a newspaper about the newspaper article about the rice harvest in the Philippines without thinking about the family that I had lived with and their water buffalo. And I couldn't read about wars in other countries, in other parts of the world, without really thinking about individual human beings. And so I started talking to people about this idea that I had. What if we could really immerse everyone or anyone who wanted to in the daily life of other people, and not really tell an overarching narrative about it, but just give people the chance to think themselves into, to watch themselves into, and listen themselves into the lives of others and see how that would transform humanity. So I started telling people about the idea. Most people thought I was totally crazy. And then finally, one of my friends in college got fired from, actually just got laid off from a documentary that he was working on that went bankrupt, actually. And they paid him in film equipment. And so he had a lot of equipment lying around, and this was 2004. And I had this idea, and he said, why don't we start shooting? And so that was how we produced the very first Life in Transit, which wasn't shown today, but it was the inspiration for this, which was James Bullock, a cable car driver in San Francisco, California. And that set of 10, what we now call the first 10 shoots, we wrapped up in 2009. We premiered at Yerba Buena Center for the Arts in 2010. And then we started on this journey of Lives in Transit in 2011. And here we are today.
Well, and with that, let me ask, if I may, rather than me inelegantly trying to do it, let me give each of you a chance to introduce yourselves, if I may. If you will.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mutlu Yıldırım. I'm from Istanbul, Turkey. I produce feature films, commercials, and documentaries. I also line produce them as well. That's about it.
That's good. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Claudia Kigwa. I produce and direct Lives in Transit in Cali, Colombia. I'm a visual artist, and I work mostly with photography and filmmaking, and I'm based in New York City.
Hello, thanks for coming, everybody. My name is Nobuhiro Awata. I'm from Japan, but based in Taiwan and China nowadays. I'm a film producer, also photographers, and then coordinator, consultant, whatever. Somebody asking for me to do it, so my title is like changing every day. So
Nobu holds the world record for most Global Lives crews taken part in. He's been in 4 of our different crews in Japan, China twice, and in Kazakhstan. So thank you, Nobu, for all of that.
you're welcome.
And flew himself to all of those places.
My name is Naomi Turi, and I'm a filmmaker based in San Francisco, California. And I was a producer with Que right next to me here in Vietnam. Not here in Vietnam. And in San Francisco, I'm a documentary producer director, and then I also do cinematography.
Hello, my name is Koe. I'm a commercial producer in Vietnam. And I was luckily helped Naomi in 2013 with Live in Transit. It's a very interesting experience for me. Thanks.
My name is Andrew Malstead. I'm an educator with a group of schools called the United World Colleges, which are kind of all over the world, and I joined the board of Global Lives 5 years ago or so, and was involved in the sort of overall series production work on this series, and then was really lucky to meet the director of the Nepal shoot, and I said, can I please come along and take photos, because I don't know anything about film. So I went along and took the pictures and got to hang out in the mountains for a couple weeks, 3 weeks or so, yeah.
Hey everybody, thanks for being here. My name is Sam. I'm a filmmaker from Denver, Colorado, based out of LA. And I directed and produced the shoot in Seoul, South Korea.
All right, well, thank you all. And you know that these good folks are representative of a much longer list of folks who are very, very involved in this. With that in mind, let me, Naomi, turn to you, because while you co-produced one of these films, you've been involved at a kind of executive level, both in the production of this series and the staging of this, and in the staging of this event. Talk a little, if you will, about the approach to production, both at the level of how it is crews come together and subjects are selected, and how it is if you're spending a full day with someone with a camera, that unfolds.
Thanks, Lawrence. Yeah, this is a very unique project in that it's unlike any other traditional documentary form, right? We're filming 24 continuous hours in someone's life. And so it's a filmmaking challenge. And I guess to answer the first question, how do we bring everyone together? One of our aims is to film and make sure that it's as authentic as possible, and to bring authenticity into the film. We want to encourage as much local filmmakers to produce. So we put a call out all over the world and got many responses for Lives in Transit, and had to sift through a lot of applications, and chose 10 producers and directors to be part of the series. And as you see on the stage, we're already representing a lot of the parts of the globe, and there's many filmmakers who actually couldn't even come here because of just visa issues, who unfortunately couldn't be on the stage today. And so in terms of it's 10 individual filmmakers who are all part of the series, so it's really exciting in that way. We're kind of bringing our own touch. And then in terms of like the filmmaker-subject relationship, 24 hours kind of breaks a boundary. And when you're filming someone for a documentary, usually you come in and you do an interview and you might follow them around for an hour or two, and there's possibly a bit of performance in that because you're able to perform or look good. Here with 24 hours, by the time you're being filmed in the 4th or 5th hour, you need to go to the bathroom, you need to brush your teeth, you might need to, elbow your husband. So by that time, I feel as though like the boundaries are are being broken, and you're experiencing a kind of authenticity that you haven't before. And so I think that's what's really interesting and unique about Global Lives.
You know, it's a subject. Well, it's a series. The subject of which is folks who are in motion or who are moving things and therefore in motion. Maybe most dramatically in Korea, where we followed an extraordinarily active TaskRabbit-like operative in his day. Sam, you shot that. What was it like to try? What were the production challenges in trying to be up with someone who was moving at that speed?
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. We had a blast. I mean, just the notion of trying to follow someone on a motorcycle through one of the largest cities in the world for 24 hours was very daunting. Fortunately, we did a test shoot the weekend before, had a couple different cameras, a couple different setups just to try to figure out how on earth do you get a camera crew through the city through all hours of the day and night. And at first we got a big old nice camera on a tripod in the back of a van and drove through traffic, but it made the entire, it didn't work because he was not weaving through traffic like he normally would in his everyday life. And so fortunately, he's actually like a handyman, so he'll do anything. I don't know if, I think that kind of came across in the short. He's fixing light fixtures and he's delivering people food, all sorts of stuff. And and he works for a company. So I actually just hired his coworkers as handymen to drive the crew around on motorcycles through the city. So it was very insane. It worked well for the authenticity of the shoot that the boss of the company, Anyman, he basically said, okay, you can film my employee, but you're not going to slow us down, okay? So we're not really going to go out of our way to help you out at all. So that was a good thing because we had to make it work the way it actually is in his everyday life. So what that meant was that basically people call the service and say, I need this, and he goes and does it. So we figured out a way of patching my Korean co-producer in on that call, and I hired another driver to basically like blast through the city with her on it, and she would arrive first at the location and with a bunch of release forms and try to get everybody to sign the release forms. And basically, if she didn't get enough release forms, we would just stand outside and film through the windows. But usually it worked out, and we went in. So that was fun. And then there was song one, and then I filmed it as well as directed and produced it. And so what that meant was I was holding on to the driver with one arm for dear life and holding onto the camera with the other arm and just weaving through traffic. And fortunately, we got super lucky that the audio worked out and nobody fell off a motorcycle or anything. It would have been terrible. My Korean co-producer, Ji Young, true to the nature of this Lives in Transit series, she's actually hitchhiking here from Toronto as we speak. So unfortunately, she couldn't be here today, but she'll be here in a couple of days to see the exhibit. So,
if anyone from the Nonprofit Insurance Alliance of California is watching, I didn't know about this until after they did it.
I told the team as little as they needed to know. Just said, yeah, no, it's good. We got to figure it out.
Well, Quay, I wonder if we could turn to you, because you're a very accomplished commercial producer in Vietnam. You have a day job, right, that's about doing polished stuff. Oh, sorry. That's about doing polished things. And you found yourself now on this Global Lives shoot on the Mekong Delta doing the day in the life of someone whose pace is not so fast, nothing like a commercial. As someone joked, it's like reality TV that's actually real. What was the experience like for you to make that shift as a filmmaker?
As I was saying, I feel very lucky to be part of this because it's an amazing learning experience, and as a producer and as an individual, learning about someone's life and get a very close look into that person. And in a way, it's very authentic, as Naomi has mentioned, because there's no script. We have a couple of questions just to withdraw the person's story and a little bit about the background, but we don't really have like, oh, you should say this, you should like to withdraw more of the answers. But everything is just like on the spot, and even for that 24-hour experience, it's just amazing, and I have to try to hide, and sometimes when I look at the video, when I do the transcribing, I see myself in the footage, and I haven't running away from the video. And as no stages, so you really have like you just basically we are feeling like we are the camera, and we just capture whatever it is happening in the person's life, and can't say much, but still right now when I talk about it, I still feel the great feeling when I'm there and I'm shooting and in the middle of the river and listen to all the conversation that they have, like something about illegal, and I heard that, and I'm like, should I say something about it, or I hold it myself? I just keep it.
Well, Nobu, you're a very accomplished cinematographer who took yourself to China to do this. What were well, first of all, what was the attraction to you of this particular kind of challenge? And secondly, then what was the experience?
And I think challenging of global lives is like it really depends on the subject. Some subject that's moving like super fast is in Korean shoot, and then luckily like in China shoot, like she's very still. Like once she get on the train, and then she's not really moving that much. So that was kind of easiest shoot for other compared to other shoot. But I think difficulty is like we only have like a limited amount of equipment. If you're shooting like a TV commercial or like a documentary, you sometimes have like bigger lights and light source and then all the stuff. And then, sometimes it's like you have to improvising yourself. And then also you need to coordinate the tire crew, because like I'm shooting this directions, but the tire crews are, behind there. But sometimes subject moving to different ways, and then like, I have to waving hands and then, get it down. I usually have like difficulty with like photographers, because like they want to shoot the good pictures also, but like kind of blocking each other, and then like I have to send eye contact, and I'm gonna go into this direction, so you have to hide, and also like in the China shoot, like when she was walking to the hallway, and then this is a train to I think from Xi'an to some other country place in China, and then like there was like all black. There's no light source. And then like once I get inside, and then I already crank up the ISO to highest point, but like I couldn't able to shoot anything. So I'm using like my cell phone to lighting up a little bit. So and then I have to taking care of my sound and then videos, and then also like using holding camera in one hand, and then holding cell phone in the other hand, and then So
one-man band.
Yeah, and then actually like at the time like we was the kind of like take a rest, and then I have to also taking up like release form and put it in my back. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Now, Muthu, let me ask you, if I may, something that will be unique to your experience, but generalizable in that these were films that were essentially proposed by the filmmakers and selected to be done. How did you decide on a pharmaceutical delivery person as a subject, and what was the experience then of convincing her and making that happen?
Well, I used to know her. I mean, I still know her, but she's
Yeah.
It's a different story. She, like you saw in the trailer, she used to work for a private sector, and she didn't like it. And she wanted to do something useful with her work, and she decided to contribute to her family business. And I really like that, because she wanted to do something useful, and she wanted to help people out. Because there are a lot of people who can't make it to the pharmacy. They're either too sick or too old, or for some other reason they can't make it to the pharmacy. and she goes and delivers the drugs to them. I like that story so much, and because I also know her, it was very appealing to me. I loved it, and then I pitched it to them. They're like, okay, go for it. It's great. It was the shooting was challenging because like I said, I mostly produce feature films and commercials, and everything is storyboarded, so you know what you're doing. And this time, we went through the route that she was going to drive around, and we knew sort of what she was going to do, but it was totally, there were so many things that were unexpected. Mm-hmm. And I just went along with it, like you said, I have this crew of 6-7 people, and she's driving. We're in the car with her, 3 of us are in the car with her, and I, try to give her some direction. Sometimes I can't say anything because then it's going to be on the camera, and I can't edit anything out, not really. So, and I try to shoot something different because it becomes very mundane. There are some moments that becomes repetitive as well. Like she goes in the car and she gets out of the car and then she delivers the drugs, the medicine, and she gets in the car again, she goes to another location. I want to do something different because I'm so used to it from the commercials and whatnot. I'm like, I want to take another shot, I want to take another angle from it. And I'm like, I'll go this way or go that way, and let's do something different this time, but I can't speak it, so I push my cameraman towards her, and hit him sometimes actually also. Go this direction. And it was a lot of fun. It was also so much fun to see her interaction with people. She was amazing. Over the time, her clients became her friends as well. And she was spending so much time with them. She knew about their illnesses and the phases that they were going through. And it was amazing to see that connection. And I felt so lucky to witness that. And the other thing is no, is that it gets extremely personal. And after 5-6 hours, okay, she delivers drugs, she works, and it's great, you see those people, and she goes home. And she's with her family, and she's with her daughter, she's with her husband, and it gets very personal, and you're there staring at them, and they're like, and they were so fine, she was acting like a professional actress, she didn't even look at the camera, not even look. She was so fine with it, and then they went to sleep, and I'm there for 8 hours, filming them, and they're like, cats around. I'm super allergic to cats, so I'm suffocating and then shooting at the same time. So it was a great experience. I loved it.
Well, thank you. Now, Claudia, you found a very sort of warm and wonderful story of horse cart driver in Medellin, a story that couldn't be more specific in some ways than it is. At the same time, you took it on yourself not just to make that film, but to help translate it so that it's available in all its specificity to people who don't speak, Spanish, but more particularly the peculiar form of it spoken in Medellin. What is it? What's the thought process that's involved in thinking about making these films, which you're not going to touch? They're 24 straight hours in somebody's life, but at the same time, a great deal of energy gets invested in translating them, as it were, both literally and figuratively. Can you say something about that?
That's true, but first of all, it was in Cali, no Medellin.
Oh, Cali, I beg your pardon. Even weirder Spanish. Yeah.
But yeah, he was born in Antioquia, which is the department of Medellin, so that's why you get confused. Translating, it was one of the most difficult process that we have, because Ivan have a particular dialect and specific expressions that even me as a Colombian, I couldn't get it. I have to call my grandmother or even my mother hey, I just heard this expression, what it means. So she helped me out a little bit. It was very difficult. So the success of translating this project, it was keeping in a close and a small group of volunteers who are from Cali, Colombia, and they try to find the balance, right? Because we try to find a lot of idioms in English, but it didn't really match what he was trying to say. So because also we have a lot of volunteers from all over Latin America, and we give them a chance, right? But when I saw like the proofreading, when I was trying to do the proofreading, they were translating everything so literal that was losing the real meaning of what Iwan was trying to say. So it was about trying to find that balance, and it's difficult. It's really difficult, yeah.
Well, this is a project, Global Lives, this iteration of it, Lives in Transit, a project that is on the one hand an exercise in artistic expression. I think that's sort of how it was born, David, when you hatched all this. And at the same time, it's an exercise in trying to foster understanding, and through understanding, empathy. I wonder, Andrew, if I can turn to you as probably the second longest serving person in the Global Lives sort of family on the stage, David being the first, to say a word about the educational dynamic that's at work here alongside the filmmaking.
Sure, yeah. So I've been a teacher and educator for about 13 years, I think now. And then when I joined the board, there was some educational work going, but we sort of tried to expand that. And we've had a 24-hour marathon sleepover in a school in India where they had 10 screens up around, and all the students locked themselves in and watched it collectively for 24 hours. We've done things in universities, we've done things in elementary schools, which can be challenging because they have to read really fast. They're not used to those things. But I guess, and then I've used it in a class where I taught in Bosnia-Herzegovina in an anthropology class. And I mean, I guess just as an example of the kind of, one of the things that students say is they'll often talk about, you talked about filming it as mundane. When students watch it, they're like, okay, so they're brushing their teeth now. Now she's making tea, And there's a moment for the students where, especially young people today, are so wired and they're moving so quickly. And what Global Lives forces you to do is slow down. And then the students kind of reflect and say, why do I want an explosion to happen? Why do I want something to happen? That's not what my life is like. And it forces this reflection that you don't get in really any other type of film that I'm aware of. And so for me, that's one of the most powerful things. It's just that it forces you as a viewer. You don't really get it in these shorts because these shorts are edited, but I hope if you come over to the exhibition at some point, either today or some other time it's up, you just stand there and take a deep breath and just watch them for a few minutes. And when as a teacher you can make your students do that, watch, then they will slow down, and it's great. And then the other way I've used it is to kind of juxtapose multiple clips. So if you say, find 5 clips of different people around the world getting water. And for Mingma, on the shoot that I was in, he had it in a bucket because he had to go out to the river and fill up the water in the bucket and take it up there. And then you have some people who do have a faucet, but they take it over, they boil it first. And then other people take it from this faucet and they drink it. And you start asking your students, well, like, why is that? Can you drink the water out of your faucet? Why can you drink the water out of your faucet? What's a water treatment plant? Why can't they drink the water there? What does that mean for development? What does that mean for the wealth of a nation? What does that mean for public infrastructure? And I teach high school and college, so you can kind of begin accessing those types of questions, but you can do that at any age. So what Global Lives does is provide you a platform as an educator to engage almost infinite questions, because it is about sort of life itself. It doesn't have a particular topic or a particular agenda that you're looking for. So I found it really fortunate to be a part of it, to do that. Thanks.
We also have a couple key educators in the audience that were part of bringing our education program to life. The first is the first educator to ever show Global Lives in the classroom, who's my mom, who's right here. Thank you, Mom. A second grade teacher, retired. But then also our real New York premiere of Global Lives was organized by Anna Hetherington, who's here in the front row at Horace Mann School. And then we have 2 members of the Pope family, Megan and Mike Pope. Denise, the mother/wife of them is a professor at Stanford University in the Graduate School of Education, and Denise Pope's students wrote our curriculum, Unheard Stories, which you can actually buy on Amazon.com, hint, hint. And it's a curriculum that's all about teaching empathy through the Global Lives videos, and it's designed for middle and high school students. So we've had a chance to do a lot of professional development and bring the exhibit to many, many schools in the US and around the world.
Well, thank you, and thank you all. Listen, what you've heard here in the way of Q&A was calculated to the extent it can be dignified as having been calculated. To just try to give you an overview of what has been behind the Global Lives Project, but we'd be delighted to answer any questions you might have or respond to any comments you might have. Sure.
So one of the common themes, I guess, is sort of whether it's horse-cart driver in Cali or the caterpillar fungus in Nepal, is that it seems like everybody was saying things used to be better and now they've kind of gotten worse. And I was just wondering if you kind of saw a common theme in that people felt their best years, even though they were so optimistic and that their best years were behind them.
So just to repeat for those in the back, the question is, it seemed to be a theme in several, if not all of the films, that people thought the best days were behind us. Was that in fact a theme? And I'll leave it to my colleagues to.
So I teach English literature, and that's what I study. And so, like, this theme of romanticizing the past, I think, is a fairly human experience. And we see it in our current politics, and in many, many ways.
Make the world great again.
Yeah. I think there is a. Sometimes it's material. Like with him, as he said, before the little Yatsagumba would grow everywhere, and now it's harder to find them. And it's true in Nepal, it's increasingly harder to find them. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are some. I mean, I think in South Korea it seems like things are doing well. But that's interesting to think about that as a theme. I don't know. It's fairly human, I would say. I think, but I don't know if others know.
I mean, it's kind of the core of conservative sentiment, right?
Yeah, Myanmar is very conservative in Nepal.
Other questions or comments? Yes, sir, in the back. The curriculum.
Yeah, absolutely. So I forgot to mention that it's also for sale in the gift shop here. And it's also for free to download on our website as a PDF. So the curriculum is, empathy is an interesting idea, and teaching empathy and grading someone on how empathic or empathetic they are, both words are correct, is a challenge. And in fact, the scholarly literature on empathy indicates that you can't really teach it. Maybe you can foster it, or maybe you could cultivate it, or maybe you can, as I hope that we do with Global Lives, you can create an environment in which a conversation or even a meditation on other people is possible. And even a meditation on how important it is to consider the value of other people's lives. When I speak in schools about our curriculum, I often ask audiences, does anyone know how many people died in the war in Iraq over the last many, many years? And I get estimates in schools, in high schools, that range by a factor of 10 often. And it's and to me, that's a way I lead into this question of, well, number one, I mean, that's horrific that we're part of that, and that our tax dollar, well, we're not all Americans, we don't all, on the stage here, we're not all paying U.S. taxes, but it's horrific that we're participating in that right now. It also brings up a really big question, which is, how much do we care about the lives of other people, and how much is that a part of our own identities? And so the curriculum goes through a series of exercises that are about, who are we? What makes us who we are? Is our nationality a core part of our identity? Is our gender a core part of our identity? Our religion? What is the course that our lives took to shape that identity? And then how do we see other people, and how do we understand that? I don't know if Andrew wants to add anything on that.
That was pretty good, yeah.
Or anyone else. Other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious
sounds really fun and kind of interesting. And then after about 3 hours, I might start to have another instinct. Did you ever run into that? Sort of, was there a moment where people started to say, hang on, this is a little too intimate? How did you deal with that? What did you do?
I would like to add something that's exactly happened to me, right? After 10 hours, Ivan wanted to quit, right? So I tried to avoid as much as I could to be in front of the camera, but somehow I have to. You know, it's like we have 14 hours more. Come on, we can do this, right? But I think that's enforced the idea of what is cinema verite, right? We try to plan a little bit because we never knew what is going to happen in the actual shooting. And I was kind of sad, like, for me to be in front of the camera, for me it's like, okay, but at the end is what the real thing it is, you know? He get grumpy, he get cranky, you know, it's about the feelings, so it makes the project even more real.
We also had actually months before our shoot, we did amazing pre-production, and Kwe had gone down to the Mekong River Delta and interviewed many people and finally found our on-screen participant. And the moment that we had collected all of the equipment, our entire crew was in a van rented, he quit. He quit on us. And so we arrived with no one to film, and we had to find someone new. And what was very interesting was, you know, so Huynh barely knew what the concept of our shoot was about. I don't think she quite grasped that we were going to film her for 24 hours, but she, you know, did she? But we began filming. And so what's interesting in our film is that during the film, she starts questioning what's happening, and her family members ask, well, we didn't even prep her. So, you know, one of the things that shows kind of the heart of her is she was making, as you saw in the short, lunch for everyone. And then she noticed, you know, 10 crew members standing behind the camera, and she's trying to offer us, you know, bowls of rice. And we're like, no, we're flies on the wall. But then also later at night, they're all, you know, they dock at their family village and they go home. And I think Kwe told me that they started talking about the filmmakers.
They was asking, like, who speak English? Like, what are they doing? Like, what are they filming? Oh, they're filming you. Oh, yeah, you're going to be famous.
Yeah. And also, are you being filmed while you're sleeping? And she's like, I don't know. And we couldn't communicate because we are continuously filming, you know? So she just found out that, well, yes, here we are all night long with you under our own mosquito net.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
We saw 10 languages here. I know there's a whole initiative in Global Lives around translations. How do you do that? 24 hours times 10 languages times all the other programs. How?
So we've probably had more than 1,000 volunteer translators that have contributed their time. I should mention, by the way, I don't think this might not be clear. The people on the stage volunteered their time to do Global Lives shoots, and you know, this is like it's a shoestring of a shoestring that the budget that we work on, and all of the translators also have been volunteers, and you know, someone told me when I actually looked to Wikipedia when I was first trying to create this community, and I mean, this community kind of created itself, but Wikipedia has been a model for us, and you may know Wikipedia is translated into many, many languages. Someone from Wikipedia told me, David, I have to tell you something about translators. There's one thing that they really like to do, and it's translate. And so, you know, when you do find translators, in many cases, and there's one, is Alvaro, where is he? Is he in the audience here? Yeah, in the back. So Alvaro translated about 12 hours of the Kali shoot himself, and you know, it is something that a lot of translators really want to contribute, and we've talked to translators. One of the shoots in our first 10 series took place in Malawi, and one of the translators, I think, was living in the UK, and she had little kids, and she said that she really liked to show her kids who were growing up in the UK what life was like back in Malawi, and so she'd show them clips from the Global Lives videos. And you know, a lot of people who volunteered to translate our shoot with Jamila, who's also from the first 10, she lives in the Shatila refugee camp outside of Beirut. Beirut. A lot of the Arabic speakers who volunteered to translate that shoot I think really felt like it was an important, in a way, political cause to invite people into the day-to-day life of a refugee camp that was almost 5 decades old. So I think it has a lot of meaning for translators, often more meaning than translating long technical documents or corporate slideshows or things like that that they make a living on. Do others want to talk about translation?
Other questions? Oh, yes, ma'am.
So one of you already knew the subjects, and Naomi, your subject apparently didn't know at all. But what are some of the things that the rest of you did to establish a connection with your subject? How long did it take to build the trust? And if you didn't have any time, what did you do to build that trust, to allow for them to allow you into their lives?
Well, I can just speak to my project that there was a call for producers for this series, and the series was Lives in Transit. So I was living in Seoul, South Korea at the time, and it's a wild city. I mean, there's just so much hustle and bustle. There's so much going on. And I just thought to myself, what would be the most fun thing to do here in terms of getting an immersive tour of Seoul, basically. I mean, you get to see all these neighborhoods throughout the 24 hours where he goes in and out of, and you get to see inside all of these different people's homes, which is, I think, really interesting. You get to see how different people live. So I simply hit Google, just looking at different kind of jobs, different things that are happening, and stumbled across this Anyman company, and just thought, wow, that'd be so cool, and was just worked with my Korean co-producer to start an email dialogue with the owner, and it took a while because he's a business person, so he was kind of like trying to put the business angle on it, and are you going to be showing this overseas? Hopefully we can expand our company and stuff like that. And I was like, a lot of people will get exposure to your company, but yeah, so that was really. It was really special to just find someone who I had no connection with and spend that time with him.
So we have a document called our production guide. Is anyone from Adobe in the audience here? We have. Oh, yay, great. So we've had a couple of really amazing relationships with companies. .sub is actually the translation platform that we use also. I don't know if anyone from .sub is here too. Okay, you are. Okay, great. Then Ringer. So .sub is the free online translation platform that we use, and that's been fantastic. Also, Adobe has had multiple teams of volunteers do pro bono work for Global Lives and has given us, we're at the point of hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of free software licenses and cash to boot. And so the team from Adobe interviewed a bunch of our past producers for the first 10 and tried to figure out how do you build trust. And so they're actually in the production guide that was written by this team. There is a section on the liaison, which is a role on our crew. And the liaison can be also the producer, it could be a joint role, but their job is to get out to the community, get to know the person, build that relationship. One of the suggestions we make is let them hold the camera, let the family members hold the camera, show up as far in advance as possible, and get everyone, you can give people pieces of paper or postcards or things that explain what Global Lives is the day before. Put up a sign near the shoot that says, what's going on. So there are a lot of things that the liaison can do. It doesn't happen in every shoot, but yeah. And then I just to be fair, Google also has done an amazing job at recruiting translators for our shoots. So we've had a lot of Google employees. Again, John Webb, who's here in the audience, is one of the key people who made our exhibits at Google in the past happen. There are Google employees all over the world who speak lots of languages, and they wrote a lot of these translations as volunteers also.
I think trust can also happen while you're filming, which was necessary for us. So there's ways that you can hold the camera and smile at someone, or laugh at a joke, or give them a thumbs up. And Kwe, of course, was our most amazing liaison, just being bilingual and being such a kind, warm person as well. And so I think she was able to really help break those boundaries, and by the end, like after the shoot, we didn't speak to each other at all. And after the shoot, when we woke up and we stopped the camera, the entire village, we were all hugging each other. Like there's this strange like getting to know each other just by being with each other. So I think even our participant, we were filming, and we call them on-screen participants for a reason, not subjects, felt like they got to know us as much as the other way around.
I have a question in the back. Well, and we hope that those of you who get to see the films will love them as well. Any other questions before? Yes, sir.
You know, a lot of people ask that question, and the real question is, how do we find the producers of these people? Because there are plenty of people in the world that are excited and ready to be filmed for 24 hours. There aren't as many producers, directors, camera operators, and loaners of equipment, liaisons, translators, etc. And so really, you know, the Global Lives first looks for the producers. And for Lives in Transit, we had 50 producers apply to do the 10 shoots. And so in each of those applications, there were sometimes one, sometimes as many as 5 possible on-screen participants who were proposed. But does anyone want to talk about how they found the individual?
For me, I think that is growing the interest in talking to people. So sometime on the weekends, I like to ride my scooter around, take photos, and I just talk to everyone. Like, and you never know, in future you may end up like there's something you may want to do, and that person, I met that person like a couple of years ago, so I will go back to that area and trying to find the person. So it's just the interest and the passion that you have, growing along the way, and just keep numbers. Practically just keep the number, the address, so that later you can refer back. Just don't tell that, otherwise when they change the number, they won't talk to you.
Anyone else? Andrew?
I was going to say, it really varies, like being involved in some of the series production. In some cases, like in Turkey and in Nepal, it was the same. It was Rinzin, who was the actual producer and director of the Nepal shoot, who was supposed to be here but didn't get his visa. He was from the Sum Valley, but he had sort of been the beneficiary of a scholarship to education, so he went to Kathmandu, learned how to make films, does a bunch of different stuff. He's a really incredible guy, and he knew Mingmar, and he was like, "Oh, he'll be really good. He can perform well." And I was like, "You shouldn't perform, but it's okay. You can So Mingmar was this incredibly, peaceful and warm and just kind of cool person. There was a moment when we were hiking up, and he had out his radio, and I don't listen to rap, but it was like Tupac or like some American rapper, and he was just like, "I love this stuff," and I was like, "Globalization is crazy." And he was really, he did it because he felt like, he was like, "I want to show the world my valley. If I get to share this with people, it's so great." And then a couple of the ones who aren't here, let's say in the case of, in China, for instance, and in Canada, these are both official authorities that the producers had to get lots of permissions from the Chinese Train Authority, and in the case of Canada, the I don't even know what it was, the agency that has the ferry boats going in. So there's a lot of more official things sometimes that you have to work through. So it really varies based on the producer, as David said. But you just hope that they're friendly. You can hang out with them for a couple days.
Well, listen, we want to thank you all very, very much for your kind attention. We hope you'll enjoy the exhibit, which again is in the Furman Gallery right off the lobby of the Walter Reed Theater, and will be up through the entire duration of the festival. We'd also like to thank the festival and Matt, who gets the last word.
Yeah, this has been almost 2 years that we've collaborated.
Yeah, I just wanted to come out and say to all of you, thank you for actually all the work. And David, what you and Global Life Projects have done is kind of incredible. We talk a lot about epic movie making, and you guys have redefined that in a very real, tangible way that's actually quite incredible. So again, you guys are fantastic and phenomenal. And I have to thank David and his team for their support of this program and for being here and being a part of all this. It really is completely wonderful, and it's wonderful when you can find a project like this that just kind of fires on all cylinders. It really is wonderful. And again, this is going to be up for quite some time through the end of the month here at the Film Society of Lincoln Center at the Furman Gallery, as was said. So again, I believe we all have a reception to get to, and I have a lot of like emphatic nods of the heads. Yeah, yeah, right. Yes, of course. Yes, yeah. So again, thank you for coming to the New York Film Festival. Thank you for coming to Convergence. We hope we see you all around here at NYFF 54. And again, a big round of applause for all of these folks. This is fantastic work. Thank you.